Oh, there we go. Evening. We're going to give people some time. I think I saw where we had just over maybe 30 people register, but Louis, we have like 50 or more people always like click that they're interested. And so even though like not a lot of people show up for the live event, I think that's super cool. So, we're in
Yeah.
the process of um, figuring out our strategy to get these out to people because we are recording these, which by the way, we probably should start recording, or did it already start?
Um, no, it just says live on my end.
Let's see. Oh, I think it's recording already. Good. Rachel, Peggy, thank you. We're going to give some people a little bit here. Louis, did you have a good Memorial Day weekend?
I did. It was nice here in New York, surprisingly. Monday was a little rainy. It was a little on and off, but it was nice enough with the weather outside, which is really nice coming from Ithaca because it's like it'll rain for 3 weeks there and then it's like a sunny for a day. Like I remember one time when I visited, they called it like it's not raining, it's like ithacating or something. They've got like all the different names for it now.
That's
Hello,
funny.
Peggy. Yes, it's going to be a great discussion tonight, as always. Rachel, I'm sure it's very warm down in Florida compared up
Yeah.
here in New York. It's gotten pretty warm, but we're getting there.
This is Memorial Day weekend was the first weekend I was home because between my oldest daughter graduating, my
Yeah.
youngest daughter had swim meets all over the place.
Oh my
And then my
gosh.
oldest daughter, I had to move from her one house to her new apartment because she's going to start her job, I think, next week. So
Yeah.
it was nice to just sit down and not
Yeah.
do anything.
Yeah, no, I was in the field right when I got out of college. I was in the field for pretty much a week and a half, and I was doing some field work for SADD too while I had like days off during finals. So I was like, I get to set up my desk again, put away all my clothes.
Yep. Everybody, we're going to give maybe one more minute here. The good news is, like the other three, we are recording this. We have the other two recorded, and we are in the process of getting ready to set up the way that we can kind of get these out to people. They can kind of watch at their leisure and engage. And again, really kind of taking this as an opportunity to not only just sit and talk and chat about SADD and where it's going and what we're doing, but even kind of laying the groundwork for more of these things. And maybe even do some more interactive ones and whatnot. So awesome.
Yes, yes. Let me know when you want me to get started, Scott.
Yeah, let's get started. Let's go for it. Let's go for it. It's
All right.
being recorded, so we'll rock and roll and get these things out.
Yes. All right. So, hello, everyone. I am Louis, National President of SADD. I'm on the board of directors. I am a community engagement specialist here in New York. And welcome to our online Power Hour Fireside Chat series. This series is brought to you by our sponsor, the Chris Moore Agency. And it's really an opportunity for SADD's new executive director, Scott Myers, to have a sit-down conversation with me about SADD, where we've been, where we're going, how you play a role in that journey. So, that being said, let me welcome and introduce Scott Myers.
Yeah, thanks, Louis. I actually really enjoyed these. I mean, just the first two talking about engaging and empowering. Um, Yeah, these are cool. I appreciate it.
Yes. So my pleasure, Chad. It's so great that we get to do these. I always have fun when we do them. It's great to have a conversation. I'm always told I have the gift of the gab, so why not use it for good? So just some
That's why I've asked you to
housekeeping.
be a part of this, Louis. That's
Yes.
why, right?
Yes. So, some housekeeping for our attendees and those who may watch later on. This is like the part when you're at a conference in the session where they tell you the same thing every time, and I'll tell you again. It's a three-part fireside chat series. Scott and I are just going to discuss some topics, ask questions, provide answers, and if we have time, I know last time, like the 15 minutes at the end, we've kind of allocated to taking questions from our attendees and having conversations there. Now, this is being recorded and it will be shared sometime after the conclusion, especially for those who cannot make it and want to view and take it in. It's always a great thing to, maybe send your students to watch over the summer while you're prepping for SADD, or if you have a friend who's also a SADD advisor, or maybe someone who's just looking to know more about SADD, send it out, tell everyone. We want this to be a very inclusive event of SADD Nation. So, students, advisors, parents, donors, anyone is allowed to, watch and attend, whether it be if you're on now or watching the recording. So for those attending live, there is a chat Q&A function. You can just drop your questions, comments, thoughts in there, and we'll get to them if we can. We can't promise that, but we will take note of the discussion going on regardless. And if we need your email, we'll say, please put your email in there. We'll make sure we can answer your questions if it's not now, later. So anything to add, Scott?
The only thing that I would add is again, I think that what Louis and I kind of made reference before we kind of kicked things off. Um, while the live attendance may not show that, and for those that show up live, I so appreciate you dedicating some time to do this live. Um, However, that said, I'm just shocked. Like we have like 50 to 60 people, registering for these events. And while, life happens, things come up, I forgot I registered or whatnot. It's nice to see people interested in the content and interested of what's going on. And just spot checking, like yes, we've had some reoccurring people. I see people even now that I've seen at other ones, but I know that there's also new people that pop into and they may not have seen the other ones. And so I just I really appreciate it. I think this is super neat, and I think that especially as the new person kind of on the block, it's exciting, and I'm interested to continue these conversations, not only in this format, but even offline, like reach out, email, call. I love it. And so, yeah, I don't know if that added anything, Louis, but I just thought it was important to say. So,
Yeah, no, thank you for adding that. Some great points. This is such a fun thing to do, and I'm glad we get to do these. So, previously we did empower to change, then we moved into engage to change, and we're going to wrap up the series with mobilize to change. So, let's jump in. Scott, when it comes to students, especially sad students, where does mobilization turn into change?
so what I think is important around mobilization ultimately, and especially after you take the whole engaging youth, empowering youth, the the heart of mobilization really is the call to action, right? So it's not just, hey, we're doing an event, or hey, we need to give you the tools to stand up and have a voice in prevention materials around traffic safety or health and mental health. At the heart of mobilization, and what I think SADD has not only had a very good history of, and maybe we'll even get to this, I think even moving forward, the mobilization part of the youth of this country and the call to action, I think really is the most important piece. It may not be the one that maybe I resonate the most with. I think even last time, I think we were talking about empowering, and I think I even called myself out saying that that tends to be one of the ones that I lean in towards as being important. But I think from an organizational perspective, from a SADD perspective, the mobilization part sets us apart outside of other organizations in a way that is somewhat unique. It's this call to action, and it really is building on student-led opportunities. Learn about the data, because the data is important, but really inspiring for the students to speak up about the issues that are important to them. I think that SADD is a good example that years ago started out as Students Against Driving Drunk. And because of, yes, the engagement, yes, the empowerment, but really around the mobilization, the call to action really put SADD in a position to say, you know what, it really is more than just that. It really is, not just drunk driving, but traffic and mobility safety, and all these other things like health and mental health and substance use and abuse and whatnot. I think that's amazing, and I think that's part of the mobilization. Um, I think it's also important when you're talking about like mobilization to change is really about um, building up these student opportunities, but do so in partnership with others in the communities, schools, other youth programs, community centers. Really, like it's a great way for students and teens to really add value to the learning experience of themselves as well as those that we're partnering with. You can't talk about, mobilizing an education base program without the education field. And I think it's incredibly important about that. And maybe kind of finally, what I would say is that doing so is, visualizing the impact of an issue. Um, it's a great way to see things through the eyes of our youth. Um, I've said this, I think, in the other two, and I'm going to hold to it. I'm a history buff. I hold to this. If you were to look at nearly every single movement that has ever happened in this country, it was either started or embraced by the youth at the time. I it's a history thing. I'm a history dork. My kids give me all kinds of crap for that, but it's so true, and it's absolutely amazing. And the fact that SAD has the space to mobilize youth on those areas that we say, the traffic safety, the health and mental health, the substance use, the leadership development, it's absolutely amazing. It's the call to action that gets people moving. Um, and although I said maybe that was the last thing I would say, I will say this, and I actually wrote this down, Louis, because I wrote this down because I thought it was important. So um, the Center for the Study of Social Policy said, and I quote, it said, getting youth to participate in activities and decisions that adults ultimately control is not true engagement. Authentic youth engagement requires that young people have actual authority and responsibility, as well as opportunities to develop the skills needed to make sound decisions. If that is not a testament to SAD, I don't know what is, to be honest with you. And so I think that, yeah, elevating youth voices, giving them the space to do that, and having the call to action based on involving them, um, it's at the heart of what we do, and to be honest with you, what we're always going to do. And if we can elevate that, more power to us.
Yeah. No, and I like to, mobilization and motivation, it's almost like a dynamic duo there. Once the students, they have that motivation, like you said earlier, if there's opportunities, if they are engaged and they are empowered, then they can begin to mobilize from there. So they have that motivation that drives that mobilization home. And it is really um it comes down to a lot of different things. And one thing so whenever I hear the word mobilization, I think back to when, coming back from the pandemic, obviously it was very hard to do for many people, especially like a school club, because you had to pretty much reestablish yourselves. And when I hear the word mobilization, I think about us tabling at an event. Like I can picture the exact event that we tabled at the first time, and it was in our community. And you reach so many different people once you're able to be mobilized. You reach not only you reach students, you reach the teachers, your advisors, parents, community members. And again, it's not a one size fits all approach, obviously. It looks different for many different people, but you've really taken those stepping stones of empowering and engaging. And it's like, okay, where do we go from here? How do we do more? Our voices are amplified. Now let's continue to keep having that conversation happen.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting, and maybe for the final part of this series, Louis, I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to ask you, like what is the call to action that you have done, right? Like to your point, like, hey, I know we did this event and we put up this table and we branded it, we put up a SADD logo right here and those kind of things, but like what was the call to action? Like for you to be at that event to either quote unquote staff it or be a part of it, what then like blew it up to basically
Yeah,
be like, man, we're now out there and we're not only having an impact, but we're changing and honestly saving lives. Like what was
yeah.
it for you?
And honestly, Scott, it was just the idea of knowing you could have an impact and save a life. For me personally, I came from like a small town, but like even in a small town, there's just moments where you're like, gosh, like I wish I could do more. I wish I could help people. And that was like the call to action. I had the ability to do it, so why not take it? I know someone recently said to me something like, "Oh, like you must not have hard work to do for if you're doing SAT or something." And I was like, "It doesn't matter." I was like, "It's how impactful your work is."
Yeah,
And that's really a driving force in what I do. And that's a driving force in what a lot of the other kids do. They come with personal stories or, they're like, I just wanted to make a positive change in my community. And it's so authentic and it's so true. And so like I said, that one event, so my town is obsessed with Sasquatch and it was the Sasquatch Festival. Like that's where we went. And every year it like has now become a tradition in our chapter for the last couple of years. And they just did it again in the fall after I graduated. And it's like the big thing that the students look forward to because they know they have a big impact there. And then they take what they learn from there and then they do smaller events at the high school. And it's just
yeah,
that idea of, I mean, even in general too, whether you're engaging or you're mobilizing, you're learning. And I think that's also another thing that we don't realize, but it's what makes it so important. And it's like how we keep doing it better is we're learning from it. So, and like, again, to answer your question, Scott, it really was just down to like, I have an impact. And that was something that SAD really gave me the platform for. I remember when my newspaper in town interviewed me for the first time, I was like, when I got on the national SLC, I was like, it is so crazy because I'm just this kid from upstate New York who graduated with a class of like 40 kids. And now I'm on an organization that impacts hundreds of thousands of lives. Like it is absolutely insane. And and that is the feeling too. And whether it's, you're impacting one person or 10 people, you're making change. And you are potentially and most likely saving someone's life. And, you ask all these speakers out there and people who work for similar organizations to SAD and SAD members, a lot of them will tell you as long as I make an impact on at least one person's life, then I've done my job. Like even if it's just one person, because of that snowball effect that this change really has on people.
yeah, yeah. And I'm so glad that you said that. And it really and I know sometimes we wait until later to get to questions, but Peggy put in something, and I'm gonna sprinkle what Peggy's kind of looking into this conversation now, and then Peggy, if we have time and can get to maybe specifics, we will. But there's always this like how do you mobilize students and teens when, let's be honest, like our culture really I mean, let's be honest. If we can be honest, our country really doesn't like that, right? Like we really like to say, "Hey, I'm an adult. I know what the answer is, and or this is what I need you to do," right?
Yep.
And I think that SADD tries to break that stigma by saying, "Actually, Louis, I need you. Like I need you to be a part of this and to aspire to have an impact. Like it's not just really go out there and do this. It's like no, like I really need you. And what can I do to help, you know, you find that within yourself to want to do that. And and I really do think that's a little bit different than other organizations. You know, I think that SAD tries to break the mold of like rather than me being the quote unquote adult or heck even the executive director of SAD or whatever and saying no, like we're going to go left and everybody come along with me or no, like whatever Louis says doesn't matter, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, right? Like we try to break that mold by saying no, like actually if we're gonna go left, Louis, man, what are your thoughts? Like what, not because Louis has the end all be all answer or we're gonna do what Louis says, but to have that spot and have that ability to be a part of something, and to have influence. And not just influence, but like to tie this into mobilization, to really bring other people to the table, to really bring people around an issue that's important. That is what, I mean, all kidding aside, even as an adult, that's what drew me to SAD. I believe in the power of youth. I believe that, asking, I think I said this in one or two, the one or two series in the engagement or the empowerment one. I may have said it there, but I know for a fact I've said it in one-off conversations with Louis or with my staff or whatever, that it was incredibly important for me as the new executive director to at minimum come in with one ear open, if not both ears open. Like to me, it's so important to do that and come in and listen and ask the questions. Like that's part, I think that's the first part of mobilization, right? Like
Yeah.
once you then start interacting and getting it, like then it's like then okay, then the engine's starting to rev up, but now we're getting somewhere and it's like great. Why is this important to you, Louis? And what can we do to amplify that more? And if you're quiet, either I'm going to take an agreement or maybe I just need to ask. Like, hey,
Yeah.
why are you quiet? Like, what are your thoughts? Like, here's a platform and an open opportunity to
Right.
have something to say, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think like just having that outlet is such a big thing for so many people because the work we do here doesn't discriminate. It's not like, oh, just, these certain types of communities are the ones that are affected by this. No, like, you know, traffic crashes affect everyone. Substance abuse affects everyone. And, for some people, just having an outlet to speak. Um, and I mentioned earlier, it's personal stories too that really drive some people. Like I know I had a friend and she was a great SAD member and she was like, I'm glad I have a platform because I lost my brother and like just having something to do now. And she felt empowered. She was engaged. And now she would like, take the torch and be like, all right, let's get this thing going. Like, let's get into the community. Let's help others. Like, I want to save other people that could have been my brother. And just having, that outlet is just so important. Um, because it's not always offered. And it's one of those moments where it's like, if you get that opportunity, you have to take it. And the students are always so willing to take those opportunities. And that's, again, back to the beginning, that's what motivates them.
Yeah, and for us, and I would say not only do we have a history with this, but part of this series was really to kind of hear from me and kind of get my insight and my thoughts on things, but maybe kind of where we're going to. And so what I would say was sad is that I think I think for us it's always, especially when it comes to mobilization, is is finding that niche, even if it's within a topic or an issue, finding that niche to where it really sparks like the desire to have impact and change lives and save, like finding that niche. Like I'll give you an example. I mean, Louis, you and I were talking about, the Student Leadership Council, or other groups of students and teens within SADD. And it's like, I can tell you what I would love for, the Student Leadership Council to do, or another group to do. Like, we have this problem within this organization. We think you can add value and help us solve it. Here it is. But giving it to you on a plate like that, it's like, holy cow. Either it's like totally, it's so massive, I don't even know where to start. Or when I tell you at a 10,000 foot, like super high level, I tell you what it is, it's like, well, this isn't inspiring. Like, why would I want to do anything for this? So on the flip side, it's like, okay, let's break it down. Like, what pieces within this issue or this topic are inspiring, or that you have a passion for? And just to use you as an example, Louis, I know like you're studying communications, you're studying marketing, those kind of things. So
Yep.
it's like, I know that at the very least, I can have a conversation with you of like, hey, I have this big issue over here, but within this big issue or this big topic, there's a little piece over here around communications and marketing. And I know that sparks an interest within Louis. So let's have a conversation. What are your thoughts and how can we go down this way? We did that with social media, right? I'm like, hey,
Yep.
we're going into summer. We need to engage,
Yeah.
students and youth over the summer. What are your thoughts on the social media and where do we need to go? So sometimes for SADD, I think it's like sometimes we as adults, but even as an organization, I think sometimes we try to tackle things at like a super high level. And let's be honest, sometimes that's not inspiring, or it's not as motivating, or it's not as going to get as many students to mobilize around this like big. I can just even say substance abuse, right? Like that's, or
Right.
traffic safety, right? All of a sudden, you may have students or teens like, yeah, what the heck? I don't need to, like, that has
Yep.
nothing to do with it. Like, oh, I don't have a driver's license. I don't plan on having one until I'm 20. Doesn't bother me, right? But if we start drilling down, so traffic safety is way up here, but you start drilling down into, well, are you getting in cars with people that aren't wearing their seatbelts? Or are you getting in cars where, there's only 5 seats, but you're trying to get into a car with 10 other kids? Like all of a sudden now we're starting to drill down into where you might strike a nerve and be like, holy cow, yeah, like now you're starting to talk my language. Now I got something to talk about. Now I got something to say. Now I have something to add. And once to your point, when we just kind of started this off, it is kind of that snowball effect or that web, right? Now all of a sudden, like that one person like finds something, and then it kind of starts impacting others. And to be honest with you, just to kind of wrap this up, we can go on to the next question or topic, but
Right.
that's all about mobilization. Finding that spark within
Yeah.
one person, having a call to action. Hey, you got this interest in communications marketing. Boy, Louis, this is what I'd really love for you to do. What are your thoughts? Or this is what I
Yeah.
think could be valuable. You got any insight into that? They're your call to action. And now
Yep.
all of a sudden we're having a conversation. Louis is like, holy cow, I've actually been thinking about this for a long time. Let me give you my thoughts and we can maybe solve this together. And
Yeah.
oh, by the way, I may have a friend of mine who can help you with the other part because it's not my interest, but I know that every time I'm around him after work, I'm talking with him about this, or whatever. So I think that's the thing that SADD needs to make sure there's always a priority of ours, is to
Yeah.
sometimes not stay at the super high level. Sometimes we do need to like dive into the specifics, because I think that's where you may find
Yes.
the interest.
Yeah, and it's finding those passions too, you know, like again, really asking the students like, what do you, and I know that's something, we even do with the SLC applications. It's like, what are you passionate about? Like, what do you want to do? And just always asking them that, that's something that when we would plan our school years out for our local SAD chapter, it would be like, all right, there's 1,000 different national weeks and months and days that occur, but what do we want to focus on? Like, what's an issue in our community and what are we passionate about? Because, again, traffic safety might be like a big passion of some, and that's where they find that their mobilization is going to come from. It's like, all right, I want to help make sure that we get these road signs fixed in our town. And then for some, it might be mental health. Like, let's try and get more mental health professionals into our school. And you, it's going to be successful if you're passionate about it. And I know I mentioned this, I think at the last meeting, was one thing that one of SAD's staff said to me before a presentation once we were presenting these things called our personal projects. And she said to me, like, everyone, like, you'll be fine because it's your personal project. It's like your own pair of shoes that you're passionate about. And like that, I just try to keep so true to all my work and, remind myself, if it's something you want to be doing, like you'll wake up excited about it, you'll be passionate about it, you'll be looking forward to doing it. So just having that and using that element and using that as a driving force in mobilization. And then from there, you create that change that we're talking about too. So, and I mean, again, that just sounds so similar to the motivation piece. You motivate,
Yep.
you mobilize, and then you change. And, you know, it's it's almost it's almost like a spider web too. Because now that you're like, oh,
Yep.
like I'm able, like I mobilize, like I can mobilize my community to do this, and you've affected all those people out there. And maybe, and that's really what SAD is. It started with one chapter, and then other people were like, oh, we want chapters. And then you talk about it, and then, like people will go off to college and like, oh, let's start a chapter there, or they move high school. It's like, why isn't there a SAD chapter here? It's a huge spider web. Um, and moving on to Scott, maybe, and I know we've talked about this, but maybe what are some, specific strategies and opportunities, in the area of mobilization that SAD can really utilize coming up?
Yeah, I think you know, I think for one thing, I think we need to define our goals and our values, especially in context to the audience that we're participating in, right? Like advisors, defining what the goal is or what the value or even the outcome that we're trying to achieve in, this chapter project or this chapter event. I think it's important to define goals. I am big into goals. As a matter of fact, just to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit on kind of the inner workings of SAD, um, we are as a staff team at the very start of really taking a look at like organizational goals, and then the organization goals will then drill down into like department level goals, and then department level goals will drill down into individual goals. And so I use that as an example because not only am I just like I'm a huge goal oriented individual. Like I just it's embedded in what I do and the work that I do. But I think that's important, especially with students. Like I mean, my gosh, Louis, and all I need for you is just to nod your head in agreement. But like so much going on, right? Students are inundated with school that's happening, various after school clubs. As much as we want to kid ourselves that SAD is the only thing that they're doing after school, the reality is that's not true. They're doing a lot of other things. They're involved in sports. Some of them may have jobs, internships. If they can find time to actually hang around with their friends, maybe they do that too. And then you throw out things like cell phones and all this kind. There's just so much going on. So I think it's important to make sure that the little time that they may have to put to SAD, that the goals of what they're trying to achieve, whether it's within the chapter, within an event, within whatever, I think they need to be defined. And I think that that's an important piece. I also think that really looking at the training and mentoring. And I think that sometimes sometimes we don't necessarily talk about this at SADD, but I think we probably should at some level, is really acknowledge the fact that while we absolutely are a student-led, peer-driven organization that tries to elevate youth voices because they're the driving force in prevention for themselves and their peers, 100%. That we can chalk that up, check. We all agree to that. We also have to acknowledge the fact that they are students and teens. And part of our obligation is to, I think I used this analogy before, but almost like put up the guardrails, and the guardrails are like the training and the mentoring. Let let the students kind of go between the guardrails, right? But like we have to provide the training and mentoring of what that means. Otherwise, like to use a really bad analogy in the traffic space, like you're driving off the mountain, right? Like
Yep.
let's do that. And so I think advisors, I think mentors, I think teachers, I think myself, SAD staff, really help provide the training and mentoring. Our partners, we have partners in the community, other nonprofits. We even have government agencies like provide the training, provide the mentoring to do that. I also think like we really do like again, I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit here in this last part of this series, but we do talk about youth leadership and you know one of the conversations that I've had, especially with our board of directors, um, is youth leadership is it a program of SAD or is it an outcome of SAD? So like, are we in the business to have a program that, is building up youth leaders, or, and it could be an and, but maybe an or, so it can be an and or is the outcome of everything that we do to build up youth leaders and build their skills and knowledge? I don't have like a solid answer for that right now. I honestly am hopeful that that is something that SAD is going to strongly look at. Like, do we have a youth leadership program, or are we in the business of developing youth leaders through other programs that we do, or is it a combination of the two? But either way, we got to support youth leaders. We have to train, we have to mentor, we have to give them the space to do it. We have to let them do kind of trial and error. Like Michael Jordan, who's probably the greatest basketball player ever. And definitely during my heyday when I was in, that was my player. Louis, I don't know who your player is, but my player was Michael Jordan. Um, he is notorious for saying that he learned way more from all the failures he did in life than he ever did the successes. And so I think it's important to give students and teens the space to try it and fail it and pick themselves back
Yeah.
up, be there with them to do it, learn from it, and be better.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I would say is just encourage reflection, celebrate the successes, um, and honestly put some trust in our students. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it's sad, but I was actually having a conversation with one of my brothers the other day, and we were talking about just kind of the state of the nation and how kind of trust is kind of on shaky ground with certain things and certain ideas and issues, and this isn't the space to go into that, but I think trust and putting trust in someone is a lost art. And I think that I think at some level, SAD should be putting a lot, some trust in our students
Yeah.
and allowing them to have the space to have a voice and go out there and do it. And like I said, with everything else, if we
Yeah.
fail or if we don't provide the training, like we'll learn, we'll fix it, and we'll do it right, and come in with at least one ear open and work it out.
Yeah. And to hit on a couple of things that you mentioned, the first being just that, the whole idea of like have your eye on the prize, like find that angle, like the goals. What do you want to accomplish? I don't know why, but this last semester of college, one of the, that whole idea of like having the eye on the prize, it like resonated me so much with me so much for some reason. And I think it motivated me a lot more than it, typically did because I think sometimes, we get caught up in these, our daily lives and just doing our typical thing. And it's just like, oh, it's routine. It's like, but what are you working towards? What is your next goal? Um, that's something big to touch on. And the other thing, and I don't want to lose my train of thought before I forget. No, it'll come back to me, but um, oh my gosh, I don't know. It'll come back to me in a conversation. But again, too, just having the ability is it's a big theme here. You have the ability to set goals for yourself. You have the ability to achieve them. You have to channel that and make it happen. Like you said, students are so busy and we're all busy. There's so many things we have going on in our lives. So, the more goal oriented you can be, you might see yourself being more organized and being more successful in that. And again, the mentorship and what we can do here, whether, we're experienced people, because, if you're coming on here from like more dull advisor perspective who's been in the game for a while, like, we know what a year looks like for different types of things. And again, not every year is the same, not everything is the same, but we have to help our students create that vision and see themselves in that spot. And that's what really, encourages them to mobilize it because I mean at the root of it all, like, okay, I felt mobilized, like I got there, I made it happen. I want other people to feel that same feeling. And that it's a driving factor in it all.
Yeah, and I think that like what's interesting is like I think you touched on this a little bit, and hopefully hopefully I don't lose my train of thought, or I can do a good job of connecting your thought with what I'm about to say. But you know, sometimes I think organizations and nonprofits especially, like for those that are not in nonprofit or haven't worked for a nonprofit, there's always a especially from funders. We get this a lot from funders, but they're like, oh, we want some innovative way of doing X, Y, and Z. And for SADD, it's like, oh, we want an innovative way to engage and mobilize and empower youth to, address traffic safety and health and mental. Like, we want this innovative way. And what I would say is that innovation can mean a lot of different things. And I only bring this up because I think it validates the need to, number one, engage with our youth. Have to, what does innovation mean to them? And what does that mean? Because what's funny, and I've actually heard this, even just this week, I've heard this from a student that when I was asking and having a conversation with them on like, well, what do you think would be the best way to do X, Y, and Z? And they gave me their answer. And what's funny is that it was the answer that they gave was something I did when I was in school. So, and that was a long time ago. So to me, it's like innovation sometimes means like maybe trying something again. Like I think sometimes I think advisors, I think teachers, like those that are on this call that are advisors or teachers or watch this later, hopefully, you'll empathize with this and agree at some level, but you're almost like always forced to try to come up with some new thing. And like, I don't necessarily think it has to be new. It could be a renewed thing, right? And you have to revisit. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. So we have our MySAD app, right? Like we have our
Yep.
website, we have our social media things. And it's like sometimes maybe the most innovative way to mobilize youth is not to create a new app or create a new website or find the next social media platform. Maybe it's just the innovation is making it more accessible, making it more interactive. Like sometimes it's not finding the new thing or creating something new. It's like, man, Louis, what are your thoughts? Like let's look back at the MySat app. Like, what is it missing? Because maybe we don't need to
Yep.
create something new. Maybe we just listen to the feedback and adapt. Um, I think I was driving the other day and I saw a line out the door at a local community center. And I was like, holy cow, like just in my town, I'm like, holy cow, what the heck's going on? And what I found out was like they were doing like resume help for kind of the retired generation, like that maybe they need to go back to work and what does that look like and stuff like that. And while that doesn't have anything to do with um with students per se, it does in the way that I think that SADD, again, maybe an innovative way. How can we use schools and community centers or career exploration departments or whatever, use that as a hub for students? And honestly, not just students like you, your families, like engaging parents and giving them platforms to be a part of this world that honestly, even as a peer-led and student-led organization, we need parents' involvement. Like we need them at the very least supporting our students to be, coming in at a 7 o'clock meeting or being a part of something after school or whatever. So I think that's important. I think it's also like this. It's funny. This doesn't come off as innovative, but in some aspects it is. Um, Allocating time to advisors. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. I think SADD can do a better job of interacting with our advisors and making sure that they feel supported and have the resources. And what does that look like? Again, I don't have all the answers, but like I think there's something there. Like it's not it's innovative in the fact like maybe we haven't done it in a while. It's not innovative of like something new and creative. It's like, no, look, sometimes we just got to revisit what works and what doesn't. Oh, Louis, you're
I
muted.
was
There you go.
muted there. Oh my gosh. Oh my Lord. Anyways, like what you said is all very true, and it definitely puts it into perspective. And as we continue to wrap up, um, just a generic thank you to everyone who has taken some sort of role within this series, whether it be watching it or being on here in the comments and whatnot. It's important that we continue to empower, engage, and mobilize our students, because again, they are our future leaders. And, I know, Rachel, you were just saying here that I made a difference on your life, and, let the students make an impact on you too. I know, like, I feel like my site advisor, she was like, oh, he keeps me young or something. People have all those different sayings. So, while you're helping your students learn a lot, also take into account that they can teach you some things. And it's not necessarily like, for some people it's like, oh, how to send an email because technology's hard, but for some it's just, different philosophies to have in life. And that's plays the role with, donors too, learning about what SAD is, and we learn about you, and with partners it's the same thing, and parents, you're in that same spot as the advisor. Learn from your child just as much as they're going to learn from you. So yeah, I think we can pass it on over to questions now if you're ready, Scott.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's as a matter of fact, I think the first one on there um was it Peggy? Oh, did Rachel have something? Oh, no, maybe not. So I know Peggy mentioned something about empowering club members, mobilizing, engaging them to take charge during their monthly meetings, um, basically to maximize the effectiveness of meetings. First off, Peggy, a couple things. And then Louis, I definitely want you to chime in here. First off, don't feel like you're on your own little island and like this is only happening to you. Um, I jokingly, I should probably keep this all like I should make the board of directors not listen to this part for SADD, but like I have the same problem even with adults with the board of directors and so it's not unique to groups and clubs and councils of like how do you keep them interactive and taking charge and those kind of things and I deal with that with our board of directors. We deal with that with the student leadership council. It's it's not unique, and while there's probably no magic one answer to solve the problem. What I tend to lean on, at least for my first attempt at anything, is ask questions. Because I think sometimes, especially with meetings where an agenda or kind of what's being done within the meeting can be kind of overwhelming or super high level, and it's almost like it's super high level, I don't even know where to start, or those kind of things. To me, this kind of goes back to sometimes drilling down into the weeds a little bit more and finding the specific need, um, that will spark interest in having that conversation. Um,
Yeah.
and sometimes as the advisor, or in my case maybe as the executive director with our board of directors or whoever, sometimes it does come down with just providing the guardrails, and then kind of in a very empowering and engaging and mobilizing way, pushing them to then get off and move within the guardrails of what that looks like. So, Louis, again, I would love
Yeah.
to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. And I mean, just in, boiling it down to, um, like getting your club members to take charge during the meetings. There are so many different ways to do that. Just some ideas in the past, like some of my groups that I've been a part of, it would be like, okay, the officers met 30 minutes before or 20 minutes before, or even like 5 minutes, and it's like, okay, you're gonna talk about this, you're gonna talk about that, like let's go into it. And again, it wasn't the advisor telling us, it was us having a discussion. Um, and then I knew officers who were like, I love SAD, but I am so afraid to talk in front of people. Like, do not make me do that. And so that's really where that leadership development piece comes in here with SAD is like, okay, don't position it as like you're presenting to them, but I would be like, all right, here's our plan for this thing. Like, anyone have any ideas? And like, oh, so and so was talking about this, or refer to that person, and then she wouldn't start to engage in that conversation, and then she would just be off talking about the things, and it was like she was fine. It was just that whole idea. S- Um, but it was a comfortable space for her because she had friends in SAD and everyone else in SAD that were members who maybe she wasn't originally like super close with, but coming into it they just had such this safe space. And continuing to remind your members that SAD is probably a safe space for many. I
Yeah.
hope that helps. And I'll go right into the next question that you have, Peggy, which is recommending the SAD leads. Definitely recommend any of your students do any of the trainings on the MySAD app. SAD Leads is a great one to start. Um, there's one on passenger safety if you have a group that's working on passenger safety stuff. We just did one on the passport to safe driving. There's one called like SOUP, and it's like oh my gosh, substance use prevention education, and that's a super fun one. And I'll tease this out, but over the summer, our current SLC has been working on a couple different MySAD courses, one being, you know, what is being a SAD member? Like SAD, it's literally called SAD 101. And we have one coming out about what it means to be a leader, just beyond being, a SAD member. And either if that looks like an officer position to you, if that looks like just being a leader, not necessarily having a title to it, or how you can really step up to the plate. We've got one, coming out about some how to do SAD beyond high school in a college space. How do you create a chapter there? And then we have one coming out about, how to be the best advisor you can be. So those will be rolling out at the end of July, beginning of August. And you heard it here first. But those are some great trainings to recommend them. Again, they're not out yet. It'll be a little while. But something that we did too is like, okay, one of the things I cannot stress enough is use summer to be proactive. I don't know, like I know high schools in New York are still in school, but wherever you are, and once you get out, be like, all right, during the month of July, if you guys could do like 2 to 3 courses on the MyStat app, and like it's just gonna be super helpful for you. Um, like encourage that. And I think some people, get scared that sometimes they're going to be super long, but necessarily really only takes you a couple hours and you learn great things from them. I know we have a Text Let's Live More one, and one segment of it is learning the story and the why behind Text Let's Live More, and which is super important to all the work that we do. Um, so definitely utilize all those aspects of my side where you can. If you're someone like me, I don't know, but I like love to like I'm one of those people like has to put it on a to-do list and cross it off, and then I'm like all satisfied or unpin the email. It will fulfill that desire for those students because it's like, oh, you finished that step. The next step, I'm one of those people, and oh my gosh, the My Side course is like perfect for it.
Yeah.
Um, Yes. So yeah, definitely send out reminders. And maybe even if you know your officers for the fall, maybe you start there with them, be like, all right, guys, I would really love for you to do the SAD Leads course. Try these three courses and pick one that you'd like the rest of the chapter to do over the summer, and then, tell them and encourage them. Uh, so yeah, I hope that helps out with those questions.
And I think sometimes, especially over the summer, like, and this is what I'm encouraging our staff to do, our state coordinators and whatnot, is sometimes it's not just like, oh, take this course or do those kind of things. I agree with Louis 100%. Like, those are awesome. I would highly encourage it. But like, even just checking in, I think what I've really loved hearing, um, in my 5 months here is the fact that part of the draw to SAD is really just the inclusiveness and the welcoming, space that we provide through our captors, our advisors. I mean, heck, even our community partners, even our donors who are like just love hearing the stories and students like and teens, love, especially again when you find that spark within them, love talking about like why it's so important for them or why it's made a difference or how it's made a difference and stuff. And sometimes it literally is just saying hi or giving a space that, hey, like, Louis and I started this meeting off like, hey, how was your Memorial Day weekend?
Right.
Like, it literally is just that. And I'm encouraging our staff. I'm trying to lead by example of doing just that, just checking in. I just want to say hi. Just hey, you know, your favorite sports team was on yesterday and made me
Yep.
think of you. I just wanted to say, hey,
Right.
what's going on?
Yes.
I mean,
Building those
it's
relationships.
parents, like students, and not just students, I think just people in general, like they're going to be much more apt to engage. They're going to be much more apt to take the lead at meetings and those kind of things. The more they feel safe, the more they feel welcomed, and the more they feel a part of something that's just bigger than them. And it really is kind of all of us to do that. And my hope is for SAD, I know we're coming up on time. Honestly, my hope for SAD is that our legacy is more of the inclusive, safe space that we allow students the opportunity to find a passion within the issues that are important to them and less of we're a traffic safety organization or we're a mental health organization or like those are important, but I would hope that our legacy is more around the idea that we provide students the opportunity to have a say in the issues that are important with them that ultimately change and save lives. And the only way SAD is going to do that is if we continue to be an inclusive, welcoming space that students feel like they are not only a part of, but are happy to be a part of, are inviting other people, which is the mobilization, the call to action, inviting other people to the table. That's what I hope SAD's legacy is.
Yeah, and I'll wrap us up, Scott. So thank you so much, everyone, and please continue to mobilize Sad Nation, however that looks like to you. Like it really means a lot, not only to our students and to the advisors and the partners and the staff, but it's changing lives. What we're doing is impacting people in so many positive ways. So please continue to mobilize, and thank you to those who are mobilizing and empowering and engaging and are the big theme. And all these has been changing. We are changing lives, and thank you if you've done that. This was our last chat for this series, but the recordings of all three will be made available super soon. So stay tuned and thank you so much, and enjoy your summer.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Louis.
Thank you.
Have a good one.